When someone gets a diagnosis of dementia, is it really important that they know what stage they're in? We're going to talk about that today on The Wrinkle. So that's a common question, actually, when we deliver a diagnosis of dementia or major neurocognitive disorder. Alzheimer's is the most common cause of that, but there are other causes. But people often want to know what stage they're in. That's a question that I answer, but, I answer it kind of carefully. So there are different ways of staging dementia or major neurocognitive disorder. Some people use the mild, moderate, severe, or others use the Reisberg Global Deterioration Scale, which has 7 stages. The first couple stages, the cognitive impairment is barely detectable. In stage 7, the changes are very noticeable, and in fact, in stage 7, a person is what we would call at an advanced stage. So in stage 7, it's usually very difficult to live outside of a place with a lot of help, like a long-term care home. And a person has difficulty with things that we would consider to be fairly basic for life, not just living well, but just plain living. So things like swallowing, walking around, being able to use language, even things like holding one's head up becomes very challenging in stage 7 and beyond. But in between those stages, there's a lot of real estate. Stage 1 and 2 are basically very little change, or as in stage 1, no change at all. People who have no cognitive impairment are in stage 1. In stage 2, people notice some changes, but they don't get in the way of day-to-day life. So this could be consistent with normal aging. Stage 3 would be consistent with mild cognitive impairment. People might notice that their memory performance has changed, but it doesn't really get in the way of day-to-day life in a significant way. So there might be difficulty with challenging things like performance at a job or traveling to new places, but everything else is intact. That's considered not a dementia stage either. But stage 4, there's definitely a major neurocognitive disorder. So there are definite changes in brain performance that can be measured on a test and are usually noticeable, and there's definitely an effect on day-to-day function as well. Stage 5 is characterized by needing more help in day-to-day life, and that's how it is with the rest of the stages. It's really, you progress through the stages depending on how much assistance is needed and how simple the tasks are with which assistance is required. So in stage 5, most people need some help, even if it's only cueing or reminding or instructions for how to do some basic things, which would include things like having a bath, getting dressed, all those kinds of things that we would consider basic activities of daily living. Stage 6 is often a stage where people need a lot of help with most things. And so a lot of people who are living in a long-term care facility or a place with a mix of professional and family help would be people who are living with dementia in a stage 6. So these folks would need help with everything sort of instrumental, like banking and cooking and taking the bus and that, but would also definitely need help with some of those basic things. Stage 7 we already mentioned. So those kind of stages make sense, and they can be helpful to use to kind of tell other people about what's going on. So if we say that somebody is in a stage 5, it kind of paints a bit of a picture of what the person is living with and what their needs and challenges might be and what their strengths might be. But the difficult thing that I find when people ask what the stage is that if you look on that stage chart, it says how long someone is liable to hang out at any particular stage. And that can be misleading. That can be very variable depending on the person, depending on their other health issues, and depending on their situation and preferences. So trying to fit an individual into a certain chart or scheme of classification is challenging, just like a lot of other schemes of classification, right? Most of us are outside of the box, and that's kind of the way we like to think of ourselves too. In my day-to-day practice, I'm more likely to use kind of a mild, moderate, severe, advanced classification scale. To me, it's a little bit more flexible, and it allows us to then talk about the person's individual strengths and weaknesses in a bit more of a global way. But some people like the numbers, and so that's when I will pull out my Riesberg Global Deterioration Scale chart, and we'll talk about things in that context too. If you have a family member who's living with dementia, it's good to know that people are individuals, and just because they're in a particular stage doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to proceed to another stage. Something else might happen in between, and the person might stay at that stage for the rest of their life. I guess if you're reading between the lines, what I'm saying is that somebody might pass away from something else before they live long enough with dementia to get into an advanced stage. And that's not always a terrible thing. Sometimes it's a natural thing. So I hope this video is helpful to kind of talk a little bit about what are the stages of dementia and how to think about them in a way that might be helpful. Are you getting enough wrinkle? Let me rephrase. Are you getting enough of the wrinkle? If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up, and if you didn't, give it a thumbs down, but please hit the subscribe button and the little notification bell, and that way you'll never miss a video. We do upload twice a week, and we have our Jerry Minute on Twitter and Facebook twice a week as well. All the links are below. I'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment, and I'll see you next time on The Wrinkle.